This is Desert Diamond West Valley, where there's next level action and jackpot winning smiles all around. So get your shine on, light up the room, show us what it's all about. It's Love is in the Air. Every Thursday in February, take home up to $2,000. On the 27th, 2 winners save Be Mine to $10,000 cash. It's time to live the diamond life. Desert Diamond Casino West Valley.
An enterprise of the Donna Ogden Nation.
Bet with your head, not over it. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
Take advantage of thousands of dollars in SRP rebates and discounts on energy-efficient home upgrades like new air conditioning units, windows, ducts, and insulation. Save money on your energy bill while also making your home more comfortable. SRP's network of participating contractors can guide you from start to finish and maximize your savings by combining Inflation Reduction Act incentives with SRP rebates. Learn more at savewithsrp.com.
Awaken your taste buds during our Fire Up Asia event at Whole Foods Market. Skip takeout and enjoy deals on produce, proteins, quick meals, snacks, and more. Now through February 25th. Shop in-store or online today.
Connect directly, bid confidently. At Purple Wave Auction, transparency is key. With no reserves and no hidden surprises, you're connected directly to sellers so you can inspect and bid on quality equipment with confidence. Whether you're looking for ag, construction, or fleet equipment, we're here to ensure a clear, hassle-free experience. Register today at purplewave.com and start bidding with peace of mind. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
Springtime savings are going on now at Mark Kia at the Scottsdale Auto Show just off the 101 in Indian School.
If you've been waiting for interest rates to drop, wait no more. Right now, receive 0% APR for 72 months on the brand new 2025 Kia EV9. That's right, 0% for 72 full months.
Or you can receive up to $10,000 bonus cash. The name to remember, Mark Kia, Mark Kia. APR offer only for Kia Motors Finance. Not all buyers will qualify. Offer expires March 3rd, 2025.
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix. It's the lunch break.
In the NBA that has impact on the Phoenix Suns. Welcome into today's edition of the Lunch Break. KDUS AM 1060, the KDUS AM 1060 app, and always on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel if you want to hop in over there as well. I am back in the normal command center today, which means I have the ability to press all of the buttons, which means it could be a good show or it could be a bad show when you put me at the wheel. So, without further ado, let's talk about that major breaking news that has impact for the Phoenix Suns tonight.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
I'll read directly from the team's injury update today. The San Antonio Spurs today announced that Victor Wembanyama has been diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. The condition was discovered when Wembanyama returned to San Antonio following the All-Star game in San Francisco. Wembanyama is expected to miss the remainder of the 2024-25 regular season. The team will provide updates as appropriate. A very scary situation. Deep vein thrombosis. Originally, Wemby was listed as out for tonight's game when the Suns will take on the Spurs to kick off their final 28-game stretch. And that's kind of where I wanted to start today's show, because today feels like the beginning of something, the beginning of the final chapter for the Phoenix Suns season. But the team that they are playing tonight will be without their star player and will be without their star player for the remainder of the season. And deep vein thrombosis in your right shoulder, basically a blood clot they found in his right shoulder. You don't mess around with that stuff. Those are not the types of things that you let linger and you hope, solve themselves, fix those issues, fix themselves as time goes on. No, you shut a guy down, and a lot of oversight will be going on there in San Antonio. And they made the big move trading for De'Aaron Fox, pairing him with Wemby. It was not a short-term thing. They wanted that to be a long-term fix, but they thought they could make some noise, be a team that could surprise here in the second half. We've talked about on this show how they are a team, even though they're behind the Suns in the standings, you have to keep an eye on them because of Wemby and now De'Aaron Fox, that they could make some noise. They could chase down the Suns if they continue to play poorly. Now, Wemby sidelined for the remainder of this year and basically indefinitely sidelined while they figure this out. It's a huge blow. Obviously, priority number one is the health and safety of Victor Wembanyama, but when it comes to the basketball situation, going to be an uphill battle for the San Antonio Spurs if they are going to chase down the Phoenix Suns and everybody else in the Western Conference play-in tournament. But that's who the Suns will face tonight. We knew going into this game that Wemby was out. I believe they listed it as an illness on the injury report yesterday as why he would be out. Didn't think too much of it. You get these all-star games together. You have all these players that are close in proximity to one another, meeting fans, shaking hands with sponsors, just all of that interactivity over the course of 4 days. I'm not surprised that maybe a flu bug could have went around. So when he was ruled out for an illness, I didn't think anything of it. But now hearing this today, a huge blow for the San Antonio Spurs as he will miss the remainder of the season. And that is a scary thing for somebody his size to have blood clots. I'm seeing it all over Twitter talking about how this is serious. This goes beyond just basketball. You have somebody that size dealing with blood clots. It is something that could derail his career in a lot of ways, and he has to think of himself first before he gets back on the basketball court. But it is very scary stuff, and he will not take the floor tonight when the Suns are in San Antonio. And that's where we will kind of restart this program after the breaking news of Wemby not being available tonight or for the remainder of the season. There are 28 games to go for the Phoenix Suns. And I tried to come up with what I thought was the proper analogy for this, what I thought made the most sense for how I'm feeling about these 28 games that the Suns are going to play here post All-Star break. And the thing I came up with is your favorite TV series that you watched. And you watch season after season of that television show. And the network tells you, hey, this is the final season of this show. This is the final season of Lost. This is the final season of Breaking Bad. This is the final season of Game of Thrones. Whatever your favorite television show is, you've been watching this show for a really long time. And you've been through the ups and the downs with this television show. And the last season wasn't the best season. You fondly remember older seasons that were better, that had more excitement behind them. This season, not as good. And the network has told you that it is the final season upcoming. It's the final run, and you're worried. You're upset that your season, that your favorite show is coming to an end. You're worried. Are they going to be able to do it justice? Are they going to be able to wrap up that show in the proper way? That's the Phoenix Suns, at least to me, going into these final 28 games. This is the final season of your favorite television show. And the last season we just watched wasn't very good. The first 54 games of this season were not very good. But there is still one final season, one final chapter of this basketball team that they could write a different ending. They could end the show better than you anticipated ending, or they could do exactly what you think they are going to do. And just like your favorite television show, maybe you're a fan of Dexter or Lost or Breaking Bad, and you loved the way it ended or you hated the way it ended. I can remember watching the final season of How I Met Your Mother and everybody up in arms about the way that series ended. And it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. That could be what happens over these next 28 games. We could see that bad ending that leaves us disappointed. There is a chance, a possibility, that they write a different ending, they write a better ending to this story. What can they pull off over these final 28 games? Do they have one run in them? Do they have a run similar to their 8-1 stretch to start the year? Wouldn't bet on it. I've got a bigger sample size outside of that nice stretch to start the year. But they've had a chance to reset. They've had a chance to step away from basketball, at least everybody not named Ryan Dunn and Kevin Durant. Coaches have had time to try to watch the tape, maybe make some adjustments, think about some things, and they are going to start their 28-game sprint to the end of the regular season. Right now, as it sits, not a playoff team. So they are going to earn that playoff spot if they are to get one over these next 28 games. And it starts with, of the 28-game stretch, the easiest 3 games that you are going to have on your calendar. 3 games that you have to win. So if you want to very quickly get us to start believing that a run is possible, it starts tonight in San Antonio. It starts this weekend against Chicago and Toronto. It starts with a nice 3-0 week post-All-Star break to let everybody know we're not going anywhere. We're here, and this isn't the last you've heard of this team. The first couple episodes of the final season showing you that the writers found their mojo again. They tapped into what made the show popular in the first place. That's what I want to see starting tonight from the Phoenix Suns. Are you one of those shows that petered out towards the end and didn't stick the landing? Or are you a show, and I've never seen it, I just know people rave about the way it ended, Breaking Bad? Can you stick the landing like Breaking Bad did? For me, this might be an obscure television reference to some. One of my favorite shows of all time is Mr. Robot. That show stuck the landing. I've got plenty of examples, and I'm sure you could call in today with examples of television shows that didn't stick the landing. Are the Suns going to be those shows, or are they going to be the critically acclaimed shows that have that perfect final season, that perfect final episode? It's up to them. As much as we can debate how we got to this mess, they have a healthy team going into the second half of the year. They have a team that has Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal on it. This isn't a television show that lost the main character, that lost the main actor or actress that was starring in that show, that forced them to pivot their plans and change what they were doing, and it didn't hit the same. They've got all of the main characters. All of the main actors and actresses are available to the Phoenix Suns. What do they do with this final season? Do they continue their slow downward trajectory, or do they have one final peak, one final run in them? So that's what I was thinking about yesterday going into today with these final 28 games, because it feels like it's been so long since we've talked about actual Phoenix Suns basketball that for at least a brief moment, I kind of was able to forget how bad it was. Now, I can look at the standings and very quickly remind myself of how bad it was. But when you have this time off, they last played last Wednesday, so over a week since they last played a basketball game, it's kind of easy to forget the day-to-day nature of how angry we were day in and day out over those first 54 games. So there's part of me, and this might be fool's gold, I'm a little excited for them to start tonight. I'm a little excited to see, do they have the counterpunch? Do they have that opening episode flair over these first 3 games? Because if they don't, then we know how this story is going to end. It'll be the same writing as last season. Great, I got it. But if they come out with some of the energy we saw when they finished the first half, quote-unquote, of the season, when they played Memphis, when they played Houston, and I thought there was a different energy, even though they lost both of those games. I thought they played with a little more toughness. There was more energy. I thought the effort level was raised. I thought the intensity level was raised. If they come out this 3-game stretch and have that same intensity, that same energy, okay, maybe we're on to something. 480-864-1060 is the phone number if you want to hop in. Maybe you want to share your television show that had a good ending or a bad ending and your prediction on whether or not the Suns will follow that television show. We've got a lot to get to here today on the program, but coming up on the other side of the break, everybody is going to be getting some more money. Does it mean that a spending spree is in our future? That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060.
The Varsity Sports Show dives into Arizona high school sports, JUCO, NAIA, and NCAA sports. Catch it Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060.
9 Inch Nails. Live at Footprint Center, September 16th. Get tickets now at NIN.com. Nine Inch Nails, live in Phoenix. Peel It Back World Tour 2025.
A family called us recently after being told they had no case.
But we found evidence many others had missed and helped them win the largest car crash verdict in Arizona that year. Hiring the wrong lawyer can cost you everything.
Call the husband and wife law team first.
Hey, basketball fans, Tom Chambers here reminding you that just like in a game, you need a solid defense for your home. And that starts with a reliable roof from Right Way Roofing. Hey, Lori, as owner of Right Way Roofing, what sets you apart from the competition?
Our team tackles any roofing challenge from shingles to tile to foam roofing. We'll make sure your roof wins against the toughest opponents, rain, wind, and even those scorching summer days.
Make Right Way Roofing your MVP.
We're Right Way Roofing and we do it right. We'll always keep you watertight.
Springtime savings are going on now at Mark Kia. Receive 0% APR for 72 months on a brand new 2025 Kia EV9.
The name to remember? Mark Kia. Mark Kia. Offer only 50 Motors Finance. Not all buyers will qualify. $13.89 per thousand borrowed. Offer expires March 3rd, 2025.
Real stories with Hellsberg.
After we met and we started dating, Nancy and I lived 150 miles apart, and I would drive my old jalopy car, and it was roughly a 3-hour distance. It took 3 years I drove across that state back and forth dating her every weekend.
Persistence.
And I would have never stopped. I had a lot of energy back then, 36 years ago.
At Hellsberg, find the engagement ring worthy of your story. Designed with the love, care, and craft it deserves. Visit a Hellsberg store or hellsberg.com.
Jim Rome with the Rome Report. Now, rarely do I agree with MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, but I do here. I do when he says that the Dodgers' exorbitant spending is good for baseball. They're not cheating, they're not banging on any trash cans or making use of technology to spy and rip signs, nor having players shoot each other up with Polaroids or use spider tack. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Anything and everything within the rules to put the best possible product on the field for their fans. What? Are they not supposed to try? Are they not supposed to create a world-class organization? Are they not supposed to attempt to procure the best talent possible in a talent procurement business? Are they not supposed to reinvest the money they have earned legitimately in their product? In other words, what are we even talking about here? Are they supposed to not try so your team has a better chance of winning? The Dodgers have absolutely nothing to apologize for. I'm Jim Rome. The second half of the basketball season is here, and the race to the playoffs continues on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. The app is so simple. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks app today, use the code ROME, and get $50 in bonus promo funds instantly when you play $5. That's code ROME on Prize Picks to get $50 in bonus promo funds instantly when you play $5. Win or lose, you'll get $50 in bonus credit just for playing, and it's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. You do have to be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Check out KDUS AM 1060 on 100.7 KSLX HD2. That's right, HD radio on 100.7 channel number 2.
Plenty more Suns as the day progresses. We'll get you ready for tonight's matchup against the San Antonio Spurs and what this team might look like when they step back onto the floor tonight to start their final 28-game stretch. But a quick timeout from that because I want to discuss some football. We briefly touched on it yesterday, but the NFL told teams a range because the final number isn't fully finalized yet. Still working through some of the details, but gave NFL teams a range of $277.5 to $281.5 million. That's going to be the salary cap number for teams in 2025. That's how much they will be able to spend. It will be at least a $22 million increase from last year's number if they hit the floor at 277.5. Over the last 2 years, it's increased $53 million at least. Remember, there'll be some more money in there if it goes all the way up to the 281.5 number that the NFL said was the upper limit for what this number could look like for the salary cap in 2025. I did some math. I looked at overthecap.com today using the 279.5 number that they're using, so splitting the difference between the two NFL numbers. If you use that as your gauge, 14 teams will have at least $40 million in effective cap space. Now, what do I mean by effective cap space? Well, that just determines how much a team actually has after accounting for paying everybody to get to a minimum of 51 players on your roster and what a rookie class for that team would cost. So it factors in the rookie costs. It factors in if you right now are under 51 players, what the minimum salaries are going to be that it's going to take you up to having 51 players on your roster. So it's a better number to use of what your team is capable of doing. 14 teams have at least $40 million in effective cap space. There's like 6 or 7 teams that don't have any effective cap space. Everybody else has a little bit. 14 teams have at least $40 million. One of those being the Arizona Cardinals. So my first thought, now let's be fair, just because the NFL is starting to leak these numbers out to all of us, there are some internal projections that all of these teams are making. They have access to a little more data on a regular basis than we do. They have entire departments that are dedicated to working through these numbers and not just looking at the here and now, but also looking big picture, looking long term, 3-5 years down the road. So they're able to do their own internal projections. So I don't think the number is a huge surprise to those inside the league. They probably had a rough guess that it was going to fall somewhere in here, but maybe not. Maybe they thought it was going to be somewhere in the 265, 270 range, and now being at 277 or 281 million, that's an extra $10, $12 million per team if you were using a 270 number or 265 number. That's a major impact player that you can sign with that newly found salary cap space. But I think the teams were pretty in tune to where this might be. So will teams, we can also just look at this with these numbers. 14 teams are going to have $40 million in effective cap space. Forget about what they knew and what they don't know. That's a lot of coin. That's a lot of dollars in your bank account. You can do a lot with that. Our team's going to go crazy. And I don't remember the specific year, so maybe producer Dylan, you can look for this for me. I'm going to send you on an obscure rabbit hunt here. But I remember a year in the NBA. I want to say it was the mid-2010s, but they had just gotten either, and I'm a little fuzzy on the details, it was either a new CBA or a new TV deal, or it was a combination of the two things, and the free agency period, after those dollars kicked in, you saw contracts that were insane. All you have to do, producer Dylan, find the year that Timothy Mozgov signed a deal with the Lakers. He signed a huge extension that was probably I think it was 4 years or so. And if Timothy Mozgov was getting the type of money, the money got crazy. It got insane. That's what I think of when I think of a big salary cap jump like this could be, a potential $22 million salary cap jump. It's not as big as the one in the NBA was. We're just truckloads of cash and cap space got dumped into the league because of their new TV deal, if I'm remembering the details correctly. And so teams just went crazy. Teams had all sorts of extra dollars at play. It was around the 2010s, producer Dylan? Right. So you had these just massive teams have huge influx of dollars, and they just spent it crazy. Guys who wouldn't get the types of deals 2 years later or 2 years before, we're resetting the market. That's what I think of when I see stuff like this. So will teams go crazy? Will the market for Sam Darnold be otherworldly? Will the market for Josh Sweat be different than what we expect it to be? We've told you many times what some of the market, the people who pay attention to this market, Spotrac in particular, what the market value could be, and they have him at $18.8 million. Does this new cap space now all of a sudden push him to $22 million, $24 million? What does it do? Does it do anything? Will these teams go crazy? What does this mean for the market overall? Are teams going to go crazy? 14 teams have at least $40 million to spend. Some teams like to keep that money in their back pocket if they want to make a move in the middle of the season. Some teams, because they're thinking multiple moves ahead, they are keeping some rollover cap space so that if a contract extension comes up that they want to take care of, or they have some incentives to pay out, they have that extra wiggle room. You can do it a bunch of different ways. But will the market for Trey Smith or Khalil Mack or Amari Cooper, Sam Darnold, Josh Sweat, Stephon Diggs, Hassan Reddick, all the names that we've mentioned here on this show, will those markets be more than we think they'll be right now? Will it cost more to get those guys in the building? And if that's the case, will the Cardinals get priced out? See, I have somewhat of a love-hate relationship with Monty Ossenfort. I think there's a lot of things that he does that I really like. Love the way he handles draft night. Love the way he's able to maneuver picks and understand pick value and understand, hey, I like this guy, but I don't like him at this pick. I like him maybe 2 or 3 picks further down the board, and he uses that to create some value for the team. I love the way he maneuvers the draft. I love his identity, his philosophy when it comes to team building. I like a lot of that. His free agency, I would put that more in the hate bucket. I would put that more in the not sure I fully am on board with the way that he approaches free agency. And so I worry until I see it with my own 2 eyes, until I see Monty make that big swing, land that big fish. I worry that if the market plays out in this way, if these teams that have all this cap space force a bidding war for some of these players, if the Cardinals will just show themselves out, if the Cardinals will be priced out, and that, to me, unacceptable. It would be unacceptable for the Cardinals to get priced out. Now listen, there's a limit. There's always a number. But set that number. Be a little aggressive in that number. But if it goes beyond that number, if you set, hey, I'm going to pay Josh Sweat at most $25 million a season. Now that's upper echelon pass rush money. But if you wanted to say, hey, I understand I'm going to need to be a little aggressive in this market. He's going to have a robust free agency period where a lot of teams are going to be in on him. I got to be a little more aggressive. You get to 25, somebody wants to pay him 27 or 28, you want to bow out, I can understand that. You have to be reasonable. But it is free agency. You're going to have to stretch the budget a little bit. You're going to have to be a little uncomfortable if you want to land a free agent. If you want to always win the deal, you want to always get the bargain, you want to always find options on the cheap, then you're not going to play in the big fish. You're not going to play in the deep end of the pool because, let's just compare it. Is Juan Soto really worth $765 million? Was Shohei Ohtani really worth the $700 million that he got? Truthfully, no. The Dodgers wanted Shohei Ohtani because they believed he provided immense value to them. So they put together a contract. The Mets believe Juan Soto turns them around. So they pay a little bit more maybe than what he would actually be worth, but that's what the market says he's worth. You have to sometimes stretch the boundaries a little bit to make these deals happen. And so that, to me, would be a concern here with all of these teams. They're going to be flush with cap space. Whatever the number ends up being, you're going to have double-digit teams that have $40 million. That's multiple big fish in a free agency that doesn't have a lot of them. So you could see a bidding war break out for some of these top names. Coming up on the other side of the break, could we already be headed towards trouble? That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060.
HD Radio is here for KDUS AM 1060. Check out your favorite shows and games on 100.7 KSLX HD2.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, Peter Frampton. Let's Do It Again tour, June 25th, Arizona Financial Theater. Grammy winner, the one and only Peter Frampton. On sale now at livenation.com.
I'm John Morgan. When people stop me to ask, what's my case worth, here's what I tell them. All law firms are not the same at all. You see, the most important part of anyone's injury case is the firm you hire. The insurance company knows exactly which firms fight for full value and which firms will settle your case for pennies on the dollar. Our firm has recovered billions and billions and billions. $3 billion last year alone. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Here's a definition of a win-win situation. Getting your windshield repaired or replaced and getting a guaranteed minimum of at least $100 all the way up to $375 cash back in your pocket. Time for you to check out New Vision Auto Glass. See clearly, drive safely. See what I did there? Give them a call at 480-210-9090 or go to newvisionautoglass.com to see what kind of incentives and cash back you qualify for. Look, the valley heat, potholes, flying rocks, it's only a matter of time until your windshield gets cracked or chipped. So why not get the experts to come to you, repair or replace your windshield, give you instant cash back of up to $375 and give you dinner from Rodizio Grill. Wait, hold up. 30 seconds, $375, new windshield, dinner. You know what? I was wrong. It's not a win-win situation. It's a win-win-win-win. And it all starts with calling 480-210-9090 or going to newvisionautoglass.com, taking 30 seconds to fill out a form to get cash in your pocket, repair or replace your windshield, dinner at Rodizio Grill, and peace of mind. To me, the choice is clear. New Vision Auto Glass, proud partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Springtime savings are going on now at Mark Mazda in Scottsdale. Right now, receive 2.9% APR for 72 months on the 2025 Mazda CX-70 and CX-90.
The name to remember, Mark Mazda. Mark Mazda, on approved credit plus $998 doc fee.
The Valley of the Sun will roar to life this spring.
This ought to get pretty wild here.
Why is that, you may ask? Because NASCAR is coming to Phoenix, and it's going to be a weekend of good vibes the whole family won't forget. The best-in-class fan experience meets racing's toughest drivers for 3 days of action on and off the track, all surrounded by the beautiful Estrella Mountains. NASCAR weekend at Phoenix Raceway, March 7th through the 9th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
Let me introduce y'all to my Canes. We got chicken figures. They hit the spot, baby. Fries are golden crispy, Texas toast crunchy, and they cane sauce creamy rich. One love.
Can't have anything nice. Spring training about to get underway. Tomorrow, the Diamondbacks' first game of the spring training calendar. I believe the Dodgers are in action today to kick off the Cactus League and to kick off the spring training festivities, but we don't get to have those nice pleasantries here today on the program because something that has been brewing for the last, I would say, year or two and is going to play out over the next year or two is a potential lockout. Now, the current collective bargaining agreement for Major League Baseball does not end until December 1st of 2026. So that means we're going to play the entire 2025 season and the entire 2026 season before this becomes an issue. But when people talk and people say things out loud, I pay attention. And so when Tony Clark met with the media, as the union boss and the commissioner will do here at spring training. They'll visit the teams here in Arizona. They'll also visit the teams here in Florida. They'll meet with the media in both spots. When Tony Clark speaks in Scottsdale about a lockout looming, I'm sorry, I can't ignore it. I can't just say, la, 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 not paying attention to this until December 1st, 2026. This is the sport I love the most. It is a sport that, let's face it, the last go-around was kind of ugly. We didn't have a spring training. There was a very lengthy period where they were debating on what to do, what the deal was going to look like. Missing games was absolutely on the table, was not good. So I want to be in front of this. I want there to be a deal done so where there isn't a lockout. But everybody's talking about payrolls and the investment that teams are making into the sport, and so is Tony Clark. He talked to USA Today's Bob Nightingale earlier this week. Quote, when the commissioner suggests openly that the expectation is a work stoppage and that a lockout is the new norm or should be considered as much, that's going to lend itself to some conversation, even though we're a year and a half, 2 years away from the expiration of the agreement, end quote. Right. If we're just going to openly discuss a lockout and discuss this work stoppage that's coming, then it's going to be driven to the front pages. And instead of talking about the actual on-the-field product that arguably is in one of the better states it's been in a really long time, a lot of young, exciting stars in the game right now. You have the big markets, and I know that this bothers some, but I'm talking the growth of the game overall from a national perspective. The Dodgers are good. The Yankees are good. The Mets are good. The Phillies are good. Those are big markets. New York, Philadelphia, L.A. That if you are building the roadmap to national appeal, you got to have those teams involved, especially in a regional sport. The NFL, yeah, you can be in Kansas City. It's okay. But the NFL would do a lot better if the Giants and the Jets weren't laughably bad. If both LA teams were good, that'd be good for the NFL. Baseball, a regional sport, what transcends that regional nature that gets you to check in on the Sunday night baseball or the Sunday morning baseball on Roku. Are we still doing that this year? Having those Sunday morning baseball games on Roku? If you're going to have those national appeal franchises, you look to the big markets first. And salary cap is going to be a word that we hear or a phrase that we hear thrown around quite a bit. Because the owners want it. I think the league wants it. But the players and the union have been against it the entire time. They have been very steadfast in their apprehension to adding a salary cap. They feel that instead of it being the competitive evening of the playing field, right, proponents of the salary cap would say the following, that by getting to one unified number, not this tax structure, this tax system where if you go over a certain amount, you get penalized a certain amount and there are limitations on it, not even what the NBA does with the first apron and the second apron. They don't a strict NFL or NHL style salary cap, right? The proponents of it would say if you spread it across the board and you say that there is one unified number, then teams would be more willing to spend towards that number because they aren't worried about a team going crazy, right? You have these small market teams where we can use Arizona somewhat as an example, right? Ken Kendrick this year spending more money than he's ever spent. It's going to $195 million projected as his budget. One of the reasons why you wouldn't do that as a smaller market, even though this isn't a small market, we can use Milwaukee as an example if we want, is because, yeah, great, I can spend the most money I've ever spent at $195 million, but the Dodgers, in the way that they're set up, can spend $400, $500 million. The Mets can spend $400, $500 million. The Yankees can spend $350, $380 million. I can never get there. So even in a year where I'm spending the most money possible, more money than I'm probably comfortable spending, and I'm taking a little bit of a hit here, it's still not top 3, top 5 in all of baseball because you have all these other teams that are spending their own personal money. The salary cap, everybody has to spend within a certain number. That's what proponents of the system would say. It probably gives those teams more incentive to spend. Now, those against it would point to Do we really believe the owners are going to open their books up and be able to share the revenue as equally as they need to put a salary cap system in place? Is it really, truly going to lead to the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Miami Marlins, spending more money? Think of your favorite small market baseball team. The A's, the Marlins, the Pirates, the Rays. All of a sudden, are those teams in a salary cap system where there would be a salary floor all of a sudden going to spend well beyond the floor? Or are they just going to make sure they check a box and they get right up to the floor and that's it? Now, the floor would be better than where they're currently spending, so that would be pretty good across the board. That would probably increase salaries, but I understand both sides of the argument. But these numbers that Tony Clark pointed out yesterday or the other day when he spoke with Bob Nightingale of USA Today, and Bob in his piece points out what I think are the numbers that, if you are anti-salary cap, that you're going to point to. 22 of 30 teams lowered payroll this year. $3.2 billion has been spent in free agency this year, but 8 teams were responsible for 75% of that spending. 14 teams spent less than $45 million. Baseball as a whole generated $12.1 billion last year. 14 teams have spent under $45 million this offseason. 8 teams accounted for 75% of the $3.2 billion that was spent this offseason in free agency. 22 teams lowered their payroll this year. There's your problem. It's not big market versus small market. There are teams that openly are raising their hand before the year and saying, we're not trying. We don't think we need to spend money in order to turn a profit in this business. We don't think it matters the actual on-the-field product. We will still generate enough money. We can have a bottom third payroll in Tampa, in Pittsburgh, in Oakland, whatever the case may be. And there's no incentive for us to spend more because I'm running this like a business, and at the end of the day, I'm making a profit. It's not good in your sport if 22 of 30 teams are lowering their payroll. Could you imagine living in a world? We just did an entire salary cap segment in the last segment about the NFL. Could you imagine in a world where 22 NFL teams said, yeah, you know what? I don't want to spend as much as I did last year. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to lower my payroll. Could you imagine if we lived in that world? Could you imagine the difference between the haves and the have-nots, between the good teams and the not good teams in the NFL? Could you imagine what that product would look like if the NFL operated the way Major League Baseball owners are operating? You wouldn't recognize the sport. You'd have 4 good teams, and that's it. Now, there's an argument in baseball that you only have a handful of good teams. Well, yeah, because you have 22 teams that are lowering payroll. You have 8 teams accounting for 75% of the spending. You have 14 teams that spent less than $45 million this offseason. Tony Clark, quote, "It's interesting that more questions aren't being asked of those teams. We're in a climate where there have been releases highlighting how well the industry is doing and that the revenue in the industry is growing at all-time highs, and yet we've got 2/3 of the league that seems to be sitting on its hands," end quote. The players don't trust the owners. That's the takeaway there, everybody. That's what that quote is saying. The players don't trust the owners. You want a salary cap? Why should I trust you when the league is doing the best it's ever done, when it's generating revenue more than it has ever done in the history of the sport, and it's not being reinvested when there's no limitation on what you can reinvest? Why, when we arbitrarily put a cap on it, am I to believe that you're going to all of a sudden change your tune? Can you blame him? The numbers I just read to you? Can you blame Tony Clark for that quote? Can you blame the players for maybe being a little dubious? There's your word of the day on the show of what the owners might be up to. And so this conversation is not going away. And so what should be a nice, fun, happy start to the baseball season, I think the next 2 years, this cloud is going to hover over the sport and slowly, over the course of these 2 years, grow and grow and grow. You think the noise is loud now? You think these types of stories make the airwaves now? Imagine what next spring looks like. Imagine what it looks like when we are in the last year of the deal, We're talking about a lockout 2 years ahead of time. That is never, ever, ever a good thing. Coming up, the other side of the break. Yesterday, we talked about the non-negotiables for the Arizona Cardinals when it comes to free agency. We said there was one. Are there any others? That's next. The lunch break. KDUS AM 1060.
Need social information about KDUS AM 1060? Try KDUS1060.com, at KDUS AM 1060 on Twitter, and Facebook.com/KDUS AM 1060.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona.
Sticks. The Hits, live at Celebrity Theater. 2 shows. February 26th and 27th. Tickets on sale now at celebritytheater.com. A trip through all their best. Don't miss Sticks Live. Produced by Danny Zalisco Presents.
Picture this. A family trusts a lawyer after their father has been seriously injured. And then they're told there's no way to win his case, and they'll have to take care of him with no support.
And that would have been the end of the story because they hired the wrong lawyer. Fortunately, they called us to the husband-wife law team. We were able to use our years of expertise to uncover evidence previously missed and guarantee they could change their father's life forever.
Do your research after a serious injury. Call the husband-wife law team first.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time. To learn more, visit one of our 12 Phoenix Sleep Number stores or visit sleepnumber.com.
But the Dan Patrick Show brightens your mood to work. The DP Show airs live weekdays from 7 to 10 right here on KDUS AM 1060, 100.7 HD2, and KDUS1060.com.
Welcome back in. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. And always on the KDUS AM 1060 app. Make sure you give that thing a download if you haven't done so already. What are you doing? The easiest way for you to stay up to date on everything we're doing here on KDUS AM 1060. Just download the app, register, hit the big play button, boom. You are in, ready to go. Download the free KDUS AM 1060 app today, and you can take us with you on the go. Sometimes in this line of work, we start a conversation, and I'm just rolling, and I know kind of where we want to go, but we detour based on just where my brain takes us in the middle of a segment. And I said something yesterday. We gave you the analogy of you're buying your first house or you're renting your first apartment, the non-negotiables, the thing that the house has to have, things that the apartment has to have, or else it's just not going to make the short list. I'm not going to consider moving in there. And we said, you have those in your life. What are the non-negotiables for the Cardinals this offseason? So we had that conversation yesterday, and I said, we've only got one. And I said, maybe we would look later this week on if there are any others. So that's what we're going to do here today on the show. Is there anything else that should be added to the list of non-negotiables for the Cardinals offseason? Meaning, they have to get it done. It cannot be an issue come week 1 of the regular season. It has to be addressed. Think we're all in agreement. The pass rush group has to be overhauled. I think there's some good, healthy debate on, is it a big swing? Is it a trade for Myles Garrett? Is it trying to pry Micah Parsons or Max Crosby loose? Or is it I'm going to take multiple swings at this. I'm going to get 3 or 4 guys via free agency, via the draft. I'm going to take multiple kicks at this can, and I'm going to make sure that I have a well-rounded room that can rotate in and out, and I hope that I find one or two guys that can provide me with the production that I need. I think that's a fun, healthy debate that we can have. I sometimes go back and forth between what I think the right path is. I think if we're looking at this honestly, there's only one path that feels realistic, but okay, fine. But we're all in agreement that that's a non-negotiable, mainly because the last time we were searching for the apartment, the last time we were checking the market to see the houses, it was a non-negotiable last time. And you know what we did? We moved into the apartment that didn't have the washer and dryer inside the unit because it was a good price. We didn't pick the house that was on the cul-de-sac in the good school system because we found one that didn't have a great school system, didn't have the cul-de-sac, didn't have the privacy, but you know what? It was $50,000, $75,000 cheaper. That's what they did last offseason when they ignored this. And you moved into that house, and you moved into that apartment. You signed that one-year lease. And then over the course of the one-year lease, you were kicking yourself over and over and over again. Man, should have just picked the other apartment. Should have just paid up a little bit more. Should have spent the extra $200, $300 to make sure we got the non-negotiables. So you know what? Next time around, I'm not going to let those non-negotiables get put to the side. Pass rush is that non-negotiable. It is number one with a bullet. It is the top of the list. Should anything else be on that list alongside pass rush? Not to the level of pass rush, but is a non-negotiable. And this is where I think there are some fun little side quests that we can go on. Because I'm sure there are some of you out there today that are screaming at your radio about getting a backup quarterback. That you think it is, we'll break out one of our favorite terms here on the show, organizational malpractice to have Clayton Tune as the backup quarterback. That you want somebody on this roster that can put a little pep in Kyler Murray's step, that could put a little pressure on him, that would be a nice little safety valve if the season goes south midway through the year. You don't want to see Clayton Tune have to pinch hit for one or two games with the season on the line. You think that needs to be an upgrade. That by ignoring that position, by not exploring that market, you are setting up this team with a huge target on their back if Kyler Murray has to miss some time. I'm sure there are some of you out there screaming at your radio about that. There are some of you that have listened to this show. You have listened to our conversations about T. Higgins. You've listened to our conversations about getting a running mate for Marvin Harrison Jr. You've listened to all those conversations. You either agreed from the get-go or I've convinced you with my arguments. And so you think that is something that needs to be a non-negotiable. Can't go into next year with this same group. Zay Jones is leaving. Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't live up to expectations. Now, I think I make this clear every time we have this conversation, but I think it's worth reemphasizing just to make sure this doesn't get clipped out or I get aggregated or I get taken out of context. I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a bust. I think the future is still sky high for Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think we all can be adults and admit that last year wasn't what we were expecting it to be. And I think many of us expect this year to be different. But I'm not going to fully put all of my chips on that. I'm going to make sure I have a really good partner for Marvin Harrison Jr. Does it need to be T. Higgins? Does it need to be Tyreek Hill? Does it need to be Devontae Adams? No, I don't think it needs to be one of those receivers. Amari Cooper's been a popular name. Christian Kirk's name's been thrown out there. Stephon Diggs. There's a lot of receivers that either are going to hit free agency, we expect to hit free agency, or could be surprise cap casualties before the new league year. Bringing somebody in to be a running mate for Marvin Harrison Jr. could be a non-negotiable for you. Maybe you want a complete overhaul of the offensive line. They need 2 interior linemen this offseason. They may just go path of least resistance and bring back the guys that they had last year, but maybe you think they need to make another big swing. That Jonah Williams last year wasn't a big enough swing on offensive line. That Paris Johnson investing a first-round pick into him isn't enough of a swing on your offensive line. Maybe you think it needs to be a complete overhaul and Trey Smith needs to be in the building next year. Maybe you think that that absolutely has to happen. Those are really the big three that I think you could consider as non-negotiables. That you could consider as, I have to have this or this offseason isn't complete. It's not going to get a high grade from me. Of those three, I think there is one that I would co-sign on. And it's not the quarterback, as much as I think they need an upgrade from Clayton Tune. I don't think their season is completely lost if Clayton Tune has to start 1 or 2 games. I think they can be fine without him. And I also, when we talk non-negotiables, I think we're also talking about, I'm spending heavy resources. I'm dedicating some priority to getting this guy. Do you have to go out and sign Justin Fields? Do you have to go out and sign one of the higher-end backup options? Or can you wait for wave 2 of free agency or wave 3 of free agency and find somebody that is an upgrade over Clayton Tune? I think you can wait until wave 2 or wave 3. When we say non-negotiable, we mean wave 1, you're hitting the ground running, you're making the big splash. Pass rush needs to be a part of wave 1. What I think also needs to be a part of wave 1, even though there's so many of them, you have to bring in a wide receiver. You have to land a veteran partner for Marvin Harrison Jr. that's better than Zay Jones. Somebody who has a resume and has been around the NFL enough and has had success, perhaps in multiple stops, to show you that it doesn't matter the system, it doesn't matter the city, it doesn't matter the team, wherever this person goes, you find success. Now, if it wasn't for his bad year last year, Amari Cooper would be that receiver. He's older, so he's not going to cost as much. The commitment isn't going to be as long. You can probably get him on a 1 or a 2-year deal. Everywhere he has gone, other than his stint in Buffalo, he has been a 1,000-yard receiver. He was that in Vegas. He was that in Dallas. He was that when he got to Cleveland. Every single stop, he has been a 1,000-yard receiver producing year in and year out, and nobody talks about Amari Cooper. Nobody. Last year, was it age? Was it the poor quarterback play in Cleveland and then changing teams in the middle of the year and having to get up to speed? He was a non-factor, a non-entity in the playoffs. So I think you need to strike while the iron is hot in wave 1 on pass rush, and I could hear you out if you wanted to make wide receiver a non-negotiable. If you wanted to make it, I've got to have this. This has to be a part of the apartment. This has to be a part of the house. I need this feature in the new car or else I ain't buying. Pass rush needs to be a part of the Cardinals offseason. And if we're adding a second, then I would put wide receiver on that list. I think there are enough options in all 3 waves or 4 waves of free agency for the Cardinals to get their offensive line put together, to get the depth that they need. And again, they can just bring back some of the guys that they had last year on deals. Offensive line wasn't a problem last year. It was pretty good. Are there ways to upgrade? Yeah, Trey Smith would be an upgrade. But you don't have to go down that path. I think you have to go down the path of getting a true number 2 wide receiver. I think I know you have to go down the path of getting a pass rush. And an entire room of pass rush help for 2025. So we added one to the list. I think that's where it'll stand for right now. I'm willing to hear arguments otherwise. You know the drill. 480-864-1060 if you want to do that. Hour number 1 in the books. Coming up, hour number 2. They start again tonight. Is there going to be a new starting point guard? That's next. The lunch break. KDUS AM 1060.
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
Welcome to Cooley Station by Fulton Homes in Gilbert, Arizona. Picture casual games of bocce ball with friends and grilling for the family under our community ramadas. Fulton Homes, you're proud to own, we're proud to build.
Every day, reliable, comfortable, connected. Every day you rely on power. At APS, we work around the clock to deliver some of the most reliable power in the country. But with Arizona's extreme weather, outages can happen. Stay safe and informed with alerts by keeping your contact information up to date. And visit our outage center for updates online or on the APS app. For more ways to stay safe and informed, visit aps.com/brighter.
Lincoln Park. From Zero World Tour 2025. You ready? Live in Phoenix. Footprint Center, Saturday, September 6th, with special guest Gene Dawson. Get tickets now at livenation.com. For more, visit lincolnpark.com.
By now, you've heard all of our ads. America's largest injury law firm. But what does that really mean for our clients, for you? It means that when you hire us, you don't just get a lawyer, you get a legal army, almost 800 lawyers alone. That army includes an entire legal team, specialist lawyers, investigators, and a 24/7 client satisfaction staff. Just like if you were going into surgery, you wouldn't trust one person to handle the paperwork, the scheduling, the anesthesia, and the surgery. Have you ever seen a surgeon operating alone and without resources? No way. Why would you trust a small firm with your case? Your case is a big deal to us. When it comes to law, size matters. We're America's largest injury law firm, Morgan & Morgan. Visit forthepeople.com for an office near
The spring sales event is going on now at Scottsdale Mitsubishi just off the 101 in Indian School. Right now, you can receive 0% APR for up to 60 months on the 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander.
That's right, 0% APR for 60 full months. Or you can receive up to $4,500 bonus cash. Come see us at the Scottsdale Auto Show and let us be your official inflation-fighting dealership.
The name to remember, Scottsdale Mitsubishi. Scottsdale Mitsubishi, another Mark Auto Group dealership.
AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
Hour number 2 of the lunch break. On this Thursday edition of the program, we appreciate you making us part of your day. However, you are listening to us, whether it's KDUS AM 1060, maybe you're listening on 100.7 HD2, maybe you're using the KDUS AM 1060 app, or perhaps you're catching us on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. And a cheap plug here for the YouTube channel. We chop everything up for you in individual segments based on the sport. You can see the video version of the show there. We've got a lot of cool new things that are going to be YouTube-only stuff here this year. So do yourself a favor if you're consuming some content on YouTube, another way for you to join us each and every day over on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. I sometimes like to use friends that work in the sports industry. They don't necessarily do what we do here on this show every day, but they are connected to the sports industry. I have some buddies who live here in Arizona that work in sports, and I use them as the gauge. And I was with a buddy last night. I think I shared this at the end of the show. I was downtown Phoenix last night watching some AEW wrestling. It was a long night. Didn't get home till nearly midnight last night. Had a great time, but I was with a buddy. Been my best friend since we were in 5th grade. From back east, we've been out here, went to school together, just best friend. And I like to use him as my casual sports fan check to see if my vibes are matching the casual sports fan vibe. So we were together last night, and we were talking about the Phoenix Suns, and we were talking about where they stand. And I said, listen, I've had this take recently that, it's time to make a change of point guard. It's time to sit down Tyus Jones as the starting point guard, as the guy who's closing these games, handling the basketball in the final 4 minutes. Not to say that Tyus Jones needs to get the Yusuf Nurkic treatment, where he's no longer a member of the basketball team, but just like they moved Bradley Beal to the bench, it's, okay, Tyus Jones, I'm going to find you 18 to 20 minutes, but it's not going to be at the start of the game. It's not going to be in the final 4 minutes of the game. It is going to be dispersed throughout the rest of the game. And I said to my buddy last night, I said, listen, I don't know if TyTy Washington or Colin Gillespie are going to be any better than what Tyus Jones is. And before I could finish the thought, my buddy said, you're 26 and 28. You aren't good enough to be obstinate. You aren't good enough to say, we know better, we don't want to make any changes. You aren't good enough for it. You aren't a good enough basketball team to say that the status quo is enough, that what you're doing is the best version of the Phoenix Suns. So we have long said on this show, TyTy Washington and Colin Gillespie may be just as bad in these final 4 minute scenarios like Tyus Jones has been as of late. They might not be any better than he was against Houston the other night, where he committed all of those turnovers. 4 of them in the fourth quarter, including 2 on back-to-back possessions, which in my book, speaking of books, I get to break the book out again tonight. Start taking notes about Phoenix Suns basketball again. It's beautiful. That book has been retired in my backpack. I look at it every single day, and I go, no, I don't need this tonight. I don't need to pull it out of my bag. I don't need to tonight, it will get broken out when the Suns take on the San Antonio Spurs to start their final 28-game stretch. I keep wanting to call it the second half, and it's not. It's 28 games. But post-All-Star break is just a mouthful. We need to come up with a better word. See, first half, second half, easy to say. Pre-All-Star break, post-All-Star break, I feel like I'm setting myself up to trip over my words. But whatever this 28-game stretch is after the All-Star break, they're going to start it tonight against San Antonio. And I think it should also start with a new starting point guard. That I should see TyTy Washington or Colin Gillespie handling the ball in those final 4 minute scenarios. You can't tell me at 26 and 28 that things are okay, things are perfect, things are fine. You don't need any constructive criticism. You're 11th in the Western Conference. You would not be a playoff team if the playoffs started today. It would be so bad that I think everybody would be out. Kevin Durant would be traded. I think there'd be another coaching change possibly. There would be front office change. Every single level of the organization would undergo major overhaul if you completely whiffed on the playoffs. You won 49 games a year ago. You have 26 wins with 28 games to go. If you went 28-0 the rest of the way, you would only be 5 wins better than last year's team. That's how bad you've been this year. So please don't tell me that you're immune to criticism. Please don't tell me that you're immune to changing. And by the way, I've watched you already make some changes this year. Bol Bol didn't start the year in the starting lineup. Who's been in the starting group the last couple of games? Bol Bol. How's it working out? He's been one of the bright spots even in those 2 losses last week. What would be your reason for not trying? And I said that to my buddy last night. And he said, you at least have to try. You have to at least say that you did everything in your power, that you looked at your roster, you looked at everybody that was on that team, and you tried every different combination possible to try to spark this team. And if you aren't willing to try things when you are, this is rock bottom. They might not be the worst team in the Western Conference. They might still be able to sneak in to the playoffs. This is rock bottom for this core of the Phoenix Suns. This is the bottom for what they should be. So if when we're at the bottom, we're not willing to change things up, we're not willing to say, you know what, Tyus, this isn't working. I need to give this a run. And you know what? If you give it a run for a week, if you give it a run for 4 or 5 games, and it doesn't work, or you just don't like it, it's not a natural fit, you can go back to Tyus Jones. And for those of you out there, because I can hear you, Chris, we need these games. You've talked about how important this week is. You've talked about how important this 3-0 week would need to be for the Phoenix Suns. They can't afford to drop to San Antonio tonight. They can't afford over the weekend to lose to Chicago and Toronto. Yes, that's why I think there's urgency to change things. That there is urgency to try things. Because I've seen Tyus Jones over the last couple of weeks. I've seen how bad that works. So I want to try something new. I want to try something different. I want a different version tonight when they take the floor. Now, here's the best part. I don't expect there to be a different version when they take the floor tonight. I think they will just continue to trot out Tyus Jones. But pay attention. This is something we're going to file away, and I want you to pay attention to it while you're watching the game tonight. And if it is a storyline, we'll break it down tomorrow. If Tyus Jones struggles again tonight, and he has some early turnovers, see what happens in the final 4 minutes of the game. If it is a close game late, pay attention to who's on the floor. Pay attention to who gets point guard minutes, who's handling the basketball. If Tyus Jones has a great game and he's the starting point guard and he handles himself well and this break was good for him, great. That would be fantastic. But if we get another example, if there is another bad game from Tyus Jones when it comes to turnovers, it's only going to make these calls louder for a change. I don't want to send Tyus Jones to where Yusuf Nurkic was sent. I don't want to do to Tyus Jones what the Suns and Coach Bud did to Yusuf Nurkic. That is not what I am advocating for. Tyus Jones still has value to this team. But I don't know if he has the same value as when they originally signed him. It is not working as intended. He was supposed to calm these turnover woes, not exacerbate them. He was not supposed to make them worse. Against Houston the other night, he made them worse. And it's not just Houston. That was not an isolated incident. It has been trending that way for the last couple of weeks. So I'm on record. I want to see a change tonight. I want to see a different person in the starting lineup. I want to see a different person handling the basketball in the final 4 minutes. I want to see a different point guard being that calm, steady force. Because I don't think it can be Tyus Jones anymore. It's at least not Tyus Jones right now. And with every single one of these games a must win, I would hate to come in here tomorrow and talk about the Suns dropping the first game to start this 28-game stretch, and the biggest culprit is turnovers in the fourth quarter led by Tyus Jones, just like it was the other night against Houston. Insanity is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If the Phoenix Suns trot out Tyus Jones as the starting point guard and they put him out there in the final 4 minutes and he turns the ball over again and they just throw their hands up like, oh, how are we supposed to know this could happen? And they act surprised or shocked. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell them. The eye test is telling you that this isn't working. The eye test is telling you that it's time for a change. And it is no guarantee that the alternatives would be better. But I think it is at least worth a shot. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather do it now where you might be able to overcome the change against San Antonio, who doesn't have Victor Wembanyama tonight, over the Bulls and the Raptors over the weekend, two of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, rather than play these 3 games, it gets worse, you lose a couple, and then when you're playing Cleveland or Boston or the Knicks, you're like, new starting point guard. Timing these things is very important. And I think tonight would be the perfect time for a change. 480-864-1060. We have to, a little bit later on in the show, do the confidence meter for this game. How important this game is. Not the confidence meter, but the importance meter. How important this game is for the Phoenix Suns. We'll do that a little bit later on here on the program. But coming up on the other side of the break, I have a very important question for you Cardinals fans. Should the Cardinals finally do something that we've never seen them do before? That's next. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060.
Your caddy, Ray Adams, takes you beyond the 18th hole on Saturday mornings with Great American Golf from 6 to 7 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060.
Great. Thanks, William. Good meeting.
What about me? Who said that? Me.
Gary, I can hear you, but...
Where are you? Guys, I'm right here. You can't see me because I'm being transparent.
You're being transparent?
Yep, and we should do it company-wide. Starting with how much it costs to get a Grizzly from Alaskan AC.
This is freaking me out.
Other places don't put payments on their websites. Know why?
Too much trouble?
Embarrassed?
They want to get in your house and twist your arm?
Could be any of those. Could be none of them. But like polar bear fur, we're transparent.
So people can go to AlaskanAC.com and get an instant payment?
You got it. Now you're being transparent.
Hey, I'm fading away.
I like it. Nothing hidden. Just an honest instant payment on their new Grizzly from AlaskanAC.com. Whoa, now I'm becoming transparent.
Doesn't it feel good?
We're all transparent.
And good thing, that shirt Ron was wearing was ugly.
I'm still here. Get a transparent payment on a new Grizzly at AlaskanAC.com.
Deftones. North American Tour 2025. Live in Phoenix. Footprint Center, March 9th. With special guests, the Mars Volta and Fleshwater. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Presented by the Big Red Radio.
Springtime savings are going on now at Mark Kia at the Scottsdale Auto Show just off the 101 in Indian School.
If you've been waiting for interest rates to drop, wait no more. Right now, receive 0% APR for 72 months on the brand new 2025 Kia EV9. That's right, 0% for 72 full months.
Or you can receive up to $10,000 bonus cash. The name to remember? Mark Kia. Mark Kia. APR offer only for Kia Motors Finance. Not all buyers will qualify. Offer expires March 3rd, 2025.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Wasn't too long ago, Jalen Hurts was doubted as an NFL passer. Critics question his accuracy, his ability to push the ball downfield, and whether he could ever be a big-time player. Well, today he's a franchise quarterback, a Super Bowl starter, and now a Super Bowl MVP. Now another Jalen from Alabama, Jalen Milroe, might be on the verge of following the same path. Like Hurts, not a polished pocket passer. He's also doubted for his accuracy and decision-making, but also possesses elite athleticism, a great arm, and a knack for making game-changing plays with his legs. The same way Philadelphia molded Hurts into a legitimate dual-threat weapon. A quarterback-needy team maybe could do the same with Milroe. Now, he may never be the pure passer that Mahomes is or Josh Allen, but neither is Hurts, and that hasn't stopped him from becoming a star. The blueprint is there. After watching what Jalen Hurts has become, who's to say Jalen Milroe couldn't be next? I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. A great lawn is like a great sports team. It takes expertise and a little extra care to stand out, and that's where True Green comes in. Here's the best part. It's more affordable than you think. They'll even match any competitor's price. Plus, True Green backs it all up with a satisfaction guarantee. Not happy? They will come back between visits to make it right. So don't wait. Head to TrueGreen.com today and let the pros do the work while you sit back and enjoy the results. Exclusions apply. See TrueGreen.com for details.
Hey, are you a whiskey lover? If so, you have to try the new Keeper's Heart whiskey. Keeper's Heart is one of the first to blend Irish and American whiskey. And it's really good. So good, in fact, Keeper's Heart has been recognized as one of the world's best whiskeys for the way it brings together the boldness of American whiskey with the smoothness of Irish whiskey. It's the perfect matchup. Keeper's Heart is a legend in the making. Trust us, you've gotta try it. Drink responsibly.
The absolute best interviews and guests. Tune into The Dan Patrick Show, live weekdays from 7 to 10 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060.
Welcome back into the lunch break. I asked a question before we went into that last break to Cardinals fans. Should they do something that they have not done? Now, it's not that they've never done it in their history. It's just something that this current regime hasn't done. This current head coach, GM combo. And that is Should there be a stronger appetite towards trading the 16th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft if it meant landing a big fish at some position this offseason? Should there be a more aggressive approach when it comes to moving draft picks? What made me think of this? Well, The Athletic today released a updated mock draft. And I love how they do this. It is their beat reporter mock draft. So each pick is done by the person that covers the team for The Athletic. And so they negotiate trades with each other. They're the ones communicating this. And when I got to the Cardinals pick at 16, they were on the clock. They made a pick. They selected, I believe it was an edge rusher out of Tennessee. But in the blurb that Doug Holler wrote about the pick, he owned up to the fact that before making the selection, he tried to talk and was talking to the Cleveland Browns to try to acquire Myles Garrett. Now, they couldn't come to an agreement. They couldn't come to terms on a deal, so that's why the Cardinals stayed and picked with the 16th pick. But it got me thinking, should there be a stronger push towards moving that pick? Now, in the past, Monty Ossenfort has had a unwillingness to trade away a first-round pick. Will he maneuver around? Yes. He maneuvered around to still get Paris Johnson, but to move down a couple of spots and pick up some additional draft capital. He has had an unwillingness to move out of the first round. I think there's a very important distinction that we need to make. Monty has overseen 2 drafts here in Arizona. The first one was the Paris Johnson draft, where they were picking 3rd. They moved back, then moved back up, and landed Paris Johnson with the 6th pick. Started the night with a top 3 pick. Started the night picking in the top 5. Last year, picked 4th overall. Marvin Harrison Jr. was the selection, and I can't tell you how many stories I read, radio shows I listened to, podcasts that I listened to, videos that I watched. Should they trade the 4th pick for a haul? Should they stay and select Marvin Harrison Jr.? Think about the king's ransom that they could get for the number 4 pick if somebody else wanted to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and to jump in front. They could make that trade and get additional draft capital. They ended up not doing that. They stayed in the spot, and they selected Marvin Harrison Jr. And so I've got 2 years' worth of examples of an unwillingness to move. And I don't really count moving from 3 to where they moved to moving back up to 6. I don't count that. They still ended up picking inside the top 10. That's the important distinction. Both of those picks were inside the top 10. They started both of those drafts inside the top 4. The first year they picked 3rd. The second year, last year, they picked 4th. They pick 16th this year. They do not pick inside the top 5. They do not pick inside the top 10. They pick in the dead middle of the 2025 NFL Draft. The value of the 16th pick is not the same as the 3rd pick. It is not the same as the 4th pick. It does not carry the same value. It does not carry the same prestige. It does not carry the same expectation of what that player is supposed to become. It does not carry any of that. You didn't want the Cardinals to trade the number 3 overall pick? Fine. I understand that. You're picking towards the top. Generational talents. Blue chip prospects. Players that are instant difference makers is what you were expecting to get when you pick that high up in the draft. Paris Johnson Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr. were not going to be available 16th in the last 2 drafts. Those 2 players wouldn't have gotten there. I can understand not wanting to give up those picks. I am much more open and much more eager to sending out the 16th overall pick, especially if it lands me a player like a Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is a better player than anybody that I'm going to pick with the 16th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. I can't do any better than landing Myles Garrett with the 16th overall pick. I could potentially land a future Myles Garrett with the 16th overall pick, but you know where Myles Garrett was taken, right? You know where a lot of these top-tier pass rushers are taken, right? Where was Aiden Hutchinson taken? Where was Micah Parsons taken? These are top 10, slam dunk, top 5, in some cases, number 1 overall picks. The Cardinals don't have that this year. The Cardinals are not swimming in that end of the pool. And so they've never done it, but I also think it's different this time around. It's a different pick. It has a different value. It is a different feel. I would have felt some type of way about moving the number 4 pick last year and passing on Marvin Harrison Jr. when this team needed a franchise wide receiver. I would have felt some type of way if they traded the number 3 overall pick and didn't end up with Paris Johnson Jr. and not landing one of the 5 pillars. Back-to-back years, 5 pillar selections. You pick 16th in this year's draft. That is not the same ball game. That is not the same context. That is a different situation altogether. And so, yes, they have never done it before, but this time is different. There is a big difference between the 1st overall pick and the 28th overall pick. There is a big difference between the 3rd overall pick and the 16th overall pick. They are different. The 32nd overall pick, depending on the draft class, is basically a second rounder. If teams only have 14 to 15 first-round grades across the board on average, then that means when the Cardinals pick at 16, you're basically getting second-round value in the first round. It doesn't hit the same. In every draft class, there's 10 guys that deserve to be first-round picks. So if you're picking in the top 10, you're almost always going to get one of those 10 guys. There's not always 16 first-rounders. I used to work in this space. I used to watch scouts that I worked with put together their big boards, and I can't tell you how many times they would come back and say, I've got 14 grades this year. I've got 12 first-round grades this year. I've got 8 first-round grades this year. Some classes are different, so you need to operate differently. Not all first-round picks are cut from the same cloth. It is a different first-round pick. It is a different situation. So if Cleveland is on the phone and they want the 16th overall pick for Myles Garrett, where do I sign? Where do I need to put my signature? Who do I need to call in the league office? Because you're not doing any better than Myles Garrett at the 16th overall pick. It's too much of a crapshoot. It's too much dependent on other teams. When you pick 3rd or 4th, there's not a lot that can get in your way, especially when the last couple of years, when the Cardinals were picking 3rd and 4th, other teams wanted to trip over themselves to get a quarterback. The Cardinals did not have to do that. But when you pick 16th, not everybody in front of you is going to be looking for a quarterback. Not everybody in front of you is going to be looking to get a 5 pillar, the top 5 pillar, which is a quarterback. They're not going to be looking to do that. They'll just take best player available, and that might mess up your entire draft class. So I think, unlike in years past, because it's different, because you're not picking where you were picking the last couple of years, because you had a better year this year. Unlike those years, there should be a willingness. They should be more open to being more aggressive, even in a year when they have less picks. If that first-round pick can get me a bona fide superstar, zero doubt about it. Zero questions for me. Get that done. So it's different this year. And it needs to be treated that way. It needs to be talked about that way. They're not picking in the top 5. I know Monty's great on draft night. It's different when you're picking 16. He might not be able to wheel and deal the way that he was when he was picking 3 and 4 and inside the top 5. 480-864-1060 is the phone number if you want to hop into the conversation here today on the program. You can also hop in to the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. We've got the live chat over there as well. So maybe you can't call in, maybe you're at work, maybe the boss is lurking, but you are listening to the show via your headphones. Type in the live chat over there, and your comment will be seen. More than likely will get read on the air. But coming up on the other side of the break, we have an importance meter to discuss, and we'll give our final thoughts on Spurs and Suns as the post-All-Star break portion of the schedule will begin tonight for Phoenix. That's next, the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060.
James Out West brings NFL, NBA, MLB, and local sports talk to you Monday night starting at 7 on KDUS AM 1060 and the KDUS 1060 app.
Are you tired of seeing rust stains in your sinks? Call Culligan. Or scrubbing hard water scale buildup from your fixtures? Call Culligan. We can customize whole home solutions to address common water worries found in Phoenix. And now, for a limited time, you can get better water at every tap in your home for $0 down, no payments, and no interest for 6 months. Problem water is no problem for Culligan. Contact your local water expert today. Contaminants may not be in your water. Dealer participation may vary. See dealer for details.
Play Monopoly Scratchers from the Arizona Lottery and bring the game to life. Pass go and collect up to $500,000. Follow the signs and take a chance to win real money and multiply your prize up to 100 times. Imagine your next big adventure with Monopoly Multiplier Scratchers from the Arizona Lottery. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro.
Been to the Disneyland Resort before? Or haven't been here at all? Your next favorite thing about this place is waiting to be discovered. Sure, you might have been on It's a Small World. Who doesn't love that? But have you found your inner hero at Avengers Campus? Avengers Assemble! And maybe there was that one time you yo-ho-ho'd on Pirates of the Caribbean. But have you rebelled against the First Order on Rise of the Resistance? Or have you dropped on in to check out Tiana's Bayou Adventure? Discover your next favorite thing about the Disneyland Resort. For a limited time, children ages 3 through 9 can visit a Disneyland Resort theme park for $50 per child with a special one-day, one-park ticket. Valid January 7, 2025 through March 20th, 2025. Park tickets and reservations required. Visit Disneyland.com for details.
What's better than a credit card with low interest? How about one with no interest? For a limited time, when you open a new America First Visa credit card, you'll enjoy 0% APR for the first 6 months. Transfer your balances from higher rate cards to your new America First card to consolidate debt and potentially save yourself a lot of money. That's 0 interest for 6 months. Interested? Then hurry to americafirst.com to apply today. Introductory variable annual percentage rate is subject to membership, eligibility, terms, creditworthiness, change, and conditions. Other limits and requirements may apply. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal opportunity lender.
Pierce the Veil. I Can't Hear You World Tour 2025. Pierce the Veil. Live in concert in Phoenix. With Sleeping with Sirens and Beach Weather. Live at Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater, June 15th. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Part of the America First Credit Union Concert Series.
The Dan Patrick Show improves your mornings. The DP Show airs from 7 to 10 a.m., adjusting to that time change. Okay. Get your radios locked 7 a.m. on KDUS AM 1060.
The first of 28 games that will end the Suns season. Tonight, when they take on the San Antonio Spurs in San Antonio, 7:30 tonight. That is a TNT game this evening. The Spurs, if you are just getting into your car or you haven't seen the news today, Victor Wembanyama out for the remainder of the season. They found a small blood clot in his shoulder, so they are shutting him down for the year as he was diagnosed with, I'm trying to get the official term for it, but it was a blood clot in his right shoulder. Deep vein thrombosis. When I got into this profession, I thought I would avoid things like these medical terms that I would have to try to pronounce. Like I'm not I think sports-wise I'm pretty smart. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot going for me. So now that I have to try to explain what deep vein thrombosis is, not really what I thought I was going to be doing today, but the Spurs shutting down Victor Wembanyama for the remainder of the year with the deep vein thrombosis, the blood clot that they found in his right shoulder upon returning from the All-Star game. He was originally listed as out for tonight's game with an illness, but then they made the decision today, the announcement today, to shut him down for the remainder of the year. And so they will be without him tonight as the Suns look to start their post-All-Star break portion of the season on a good note, that they try to snap a 4-game road losing streak. They try to snap a overall 3-game losing streak, and I find this very funny. This Phoenix Suns season has been, I don't know, disaster, dumpster fire. I think those are fair terms to use to describe this season. Hasn't been very good. Yet the last week or so, even though we've been talking about it, even though we've been looking big picture, we've been looking at what it's going to be like when they start tonight and they play these final 28 games. We have not completely avoided the Suns as a topic, but it feels like when we are not in the weeds day to day, when there's not games to constantly react to and we're not checking the scoreboard or ranting and raving about Tyus Jones as the point guard and Bradley Beal coming off the bench and the way they play in the final 4 minutes and Devin Booker struggling and all of it, right? When we're not doing all of it, I kind of forgot that they had lost 3 in a row. I kind of forgot that they are on a 4-game road losing streak. I had forgotten that they've only won 3 of their last 10. I know I've probably said it over the course of the last week or so in doing the show. It's not one of those stats that's been front of mind for me. I've kind of forgotten the way they went into the All-Star break and the way they're coming out of the All-Star break. I kind of think that's a good thing, though. I think that's actually refreshing. Because while the players have been able to hit the reset button a little bit, so have we. We've been able to hit the reset button. I've kind of given them, not a mulligan, but okay, you went 26-28 the first half of the year. First 54 games going into the All-Star break. Was not good. This is not where you're supposed to be. Bad. But I'm giving you a clean slate, a fresh start. You start with a win tonight, it's game on, baby. Let's go. Let's chase down the Kings. Let's chase down the Warriors. Let's get into a play-in spot. And I think while we all have given up on what this season could have been, I'd like to watch playoff basketball. I'd like to have a seat at the table in the playoffs. I'd like to have a seat at the table in the play-in tournament. I would much rather that than talk about a team that didn't make the playoffs when they allow 20 teams to be in the playoffs. I would much rather get bounced in the play-in tournament or get swept again in the first round by Oklahoma City and Memphis so we can at least say, oh, it wasn't all that bad. I'd much rather that. So it's game on tonight. It's game on when they play the Spurs. It's game on this week. This is the week. We said it to you on Monday's edition of the show. They have to have all 3 games this week. You can't have 3 unless you get the first one. You can't get to 2 and 3. You can't beat Chicago and Toronto to finish a 3-0 week unless you get tonight's game. And there's no Wemby on the other side. You're fully healthy. Pretty sure everybody's going to go tonight. I know it's on the road, but you're better than this team record-wise. They're without their star player. There are 0 excuses. You're fresh. You've been able to take time off. Everybody but Ryan Dunn and Kevin Durant has been able to rest, mentally hit the reset button. Coaches have been able to take a break, but maybe also do a deeper dive into the film, make some necessary adjustments. It's hard to make adjustments when you're playing multiple times a week. When you have a week off, you might be able to make those big picture adjustments. So we'll see. I expect energy tonight. I expect intensity tonight. I expect the efforts that you saw against Memphis and Houston. And we really tried to really tried to give credit where credit is due last week. We really tried to lay out the case that, yes, they lost to Memphis. Yes, they lost to Houston, but it was different. Those losses felt different. Those losses had some energy behind them. They had no business being in that Memphis game. They were. They then the next night went to Houston and had a lead going into the fourth quarter. Now, we went chapter and verse on all of the issues that they had in that game that led to them losing, that led to them blowing that game, but they were in that game. The energy level, the intensity, the emotion was there because I think they understand last chance saloon. We are here. This is it. You know when you're driving on the highway and you see the sign that says last rest stop for however many miles? This is it for the Suns. There's no more rest stops. It is a 28-game sprint. I don't want to hear about load management. I don't want to hear about giving guys times off. This is a 28-game sprint to the finish, and it starts tonight. We've told you we think the magic number for this team is 15. They have to be hovering around 500 if they want to get this done. If they want to be in the mix, they have to get to at least 500. I don't know if a below 500 team is going to get in. That means they have to get 15 of 28. That is 15 and 13. That is slightly above 500 basketball. That's what they have to play the remainder of the season. You know what helps you do that? Starting 1-0. It's very easy to get to 2 games above 500 when you get to 1 game above 500 first. This team, for 54 games, has constantly dug themselves a hole over and over and over again. Tonight, they need to make sure they start digging the other direction. They need to make sure that they don't continue to dig. They got to break. No more digging. The hole didn't get any bigger. Now it's time to fill the hole, to put dirt back in the hole, and to pull yourself back up to ground level. That starts tonight. And it starts against a team that you should be able to beat. So you know what, Producer Dylan? You can probably tell based on my tone where we're going with this. So if you want to add to the sheet, you want to add to our running tally of how important all of these games are, I'm not adding exclamation points, but this game gets a 10. You have to win this game tonight. No Wemby on the other side. Now, obviously, the health of Wemby comes first, and his actual health over his basketball career comes first. But this news breaks today. That is an emotional toll on the fan base. It is an emotional toll on the team. It changes the entire outlook. They now have to play a basketball game tonight. That's tough. You're walking in there. You've had time off. You're better than them. You've been better than them. You're in front of them in the standings. They're missing one of their star players. Again, hopefully everything's good with Wemby. Hope he's able to make a recovery, return next year, and be awesome because the sport is better with him in it. It is a scary thing that he's dealing with. But tonight, they're not going to have him. Advantage Suns. The Suns have been a better team this year. Advantage Suns. This is the week you have to show me something. You have to start strong. If you come out flat, if you don't have the energy, if you don't have the intensity tonight, how am I supposed to believe that you're going to find it now with 27 games to go? I need to see the energy from the get-go tonight. I need to see you playing with your hair on fire for 48 minutes. That's what I need to see from this team tonight. So it gets a 10 for importance. You need to start this week 1-0. You need to start laying the foundation for digging yourself out of this hole, from moving yourself back into playoff contention, to putting pressure on the Kings, putting pressure on the Warriors, cleaning up that 1.5 game deficit that you have over those teams. This is your week to make some headway because you know how difficult the schedule is going to get the rest of the way. So a 10 on the importance scale. A 10. No exclamation points, but a 10. They need to win this game tonight. And you know what? I think they will. 4-game losing streak on the road they will try to snap. And I also love the ESPN preview tonight for the game. Provides this very important piece of information that Phoenix is 13-5 when they turn the ball over less than their opponents. Thanks. We've been talking about this for weeks. Don't turn the ball over. Good things happen to you. They average 13.2 turnovers per game. So turn the ball over less than the Spurs tonight. Don't turn the ball over 13 times. And we're talking about a team that started the post-All-Star break the exact right way. Coming up, other side of the break, we will wrap up today's edition of the lunch break. The leftovers. I've got a Four Nations preview for you, and we have a baseball story to discuss. That's all next. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060.
The NAIA, JUCO, small college, high school sports, and you. Listen to Vince and Friends with the Varsity Sports Show here on KDUS AM 1060, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m.
Stars are shining down on Goldberg and Osborne. The Eagle has more than 2,200 five-star Google reviews from across Arizona, like these.
They go that extra mile to let you know they care. A wonderful experience.
They treat their clients like family, and their professionalism is the best in the business.
They made sure I got a great offer. Like a bulldog, they fought for me.
Well said, everyone. After any accident, remember, the bird is the word. Visit Goldberg and Osborne at 1-800-THE-EAGLE.com.
At the Phoenix Zoo, we are the home of and which also makes us the home of Phoenix Zoo. That zoo we are. For tickets, hours, and much more, visit phoenixzoo.org.
Experience the beauty and excitement of the Scottsdale Arabian Horse Show and enjoy free admission with your dairy purchase. Simply buy $20 worth of milk, cheese, or yogurt at your local grocery store. Bring your receipt to the admissions booth and receive one free ticket. Don't miss this world-class event at Westworld, February 13th through 23rd. Real dairy fuels real adventures. Show your dairy receipt and rein in big savings. Brought to you by your Arizona milk producers.
Hi, Luis Gonzalez here. Want to bet? Feel the thrill of Casino Arizona with 1,400 of the hottest slots and nonstop table game action. We make winners, no experience necessary. Join us for the best bingo in the valley with daily sessions. Indulge in all-you-can-eat Eagles Buffet or enjoy fine dining experience at the award-winning Choya Steakhouse. Enjoy top-notch local entertainment, tribute bands, and viewing parties at CAZ Sports Bar, just off the 101 in McKellips. Casino Arizona, uniquely Arizona.
Listener rewards for you with the KDUS 1060 app. Download today to hear all of the national and local shows you love. That's the KDUS 1060 app.
To wrap up today's edition of the lunch break, one more time, I want to remind you to download the KDUS AM 1060 app. That is your way to stay in tune with everything that we do here on KDUS AM 1060. Like tonight, we've got NAU men's basketball. The pregame 5:30. That'll start over on 1440. Then at 6 o'clock, tip can be heard on 1440, but also can be heard right here on KDUS AM 1060. So if you are in town, you want to support NAU, listen to them tonight. We've got you covered 5:30 pregame, 1440, and then tip 6 o'clock right here on KDUS AM 1060. You can make sure that you follow all of that stuff. Just download the KDUS AM 1060 app today. Register. It's super simple, super easy. It's free, and you just hit the big play button, and boom, you've got the lunch break right there with you. Jim Rome's coming up next. You can hit the button. Boom. Jim Rome right there for you. So download the KDUS AM 1060 app today. Tonight, the conclusion of the Four Nations Cup tournament extravaganza in the NHL. The U.S. will take on Canada. 6 o'clock tonight on ESPN, the Four Nations Face-Off Championship, the rematch. These two teams met on Saturday. 4.4 million people tuned in to watch. The U.S. beat Canada in their round-robin play. These two teams are going to meet up again. Some injuries, some illnesses for Team USA. They will not have Quinn Hughes. They will not have McAvoy. So they're without a couple of players. I had somebody in the building today walk up to me. Came all the way upstairs from downstairs and was like, I got to ask you about this Four Nations thing. I got a question for you. Last time didn't went well for Team USA. Not feeling that great tonight. Your gauge. And I'll tell you, I think Canada is obviously going to be playing with some revenge, right? The U.S. went up to Montreal, beat Canada in the round-robin game. This final is in Boston, so they'd like to return the favor. The U.S. injured more so than they were when these two teams met up last time around in the round-robin portion. Canada healthier than they were when these two teams met in the round-robin portion on Saturday. There is one great equalizer, though, and that is the goaltending. The goaltending, I think, is going to be the difference in this game. I think the U.S. have the better goaltender. They have the advantage in that regard. Connor Hellebuyck is the better goaltender over Jordan Binnington. And sometimes all you need in a given night is a goalie to stand on his head. Doesn't matter the injuries. Doesn't matter who's available, who's not available. Doesn't matter where the game's being played. Doesn't matter the prior history. Sometimes all you need is a goalie to just be locked in. And if a goalie is locked in, it does not matter who's on the other side. It does not matter what the star power is on Team Canada. If you have the better goaltender and your goaltender's hot, you can win anything. And so I could see this game being the complete inverse of what it was last time with Canada playing as well as they've been. They could easily win 3-1, get an empty netter late in a 2-1 game. I think this game is going to be close. I think it's going to be, I don't think we'll see 3 fights in 9 seconds. I think it is going to be a great crowd, and I think it is going to be a culmination of what has been a great week for the NHL. The Four Nations face-off, which was there. They couldn't get a World Cup together. This is what they wanted to do instead of an all-star game with the Olympics coming up right around the corner. I think this was perfect. This checked all of the boxes. This was a huge, huge success, and tonight is going to be the culmination of that with the Four Nations face-off final, U.S.-Canada round 2. I'll tell you, it's going to be tough for me tonight. As longtime listeners of the show know, today's Thursday, so it's a softball day for me. So I'll be coaching softball tonight at 6 o'clock. I'll probably have the phone with the game on, and then we've got basketball tonight at 7:30 when the Suns take on the Spurs. A baseball story for you. I don't know how much you've been paying attention to some of the new things that baseball is going to try this spring. But they announced that during spring games this season, they are going to test the automated balls strike challenge system. Now, during the Grapefruit and Cactus League seasons this spring, they're going to have 60% of those games covered with the automated ball strike system. And they're going to use this as a test case to see if it is ready and suitable for the major league level. So the way this works is there is a strike zone that it is a combination between an automated system that calls balls and strikes, so a computer calling balls and strikes, and a traditional umpire calling the balls and strikes himself. So the way this works is the umpire still calls balls and strikes. He still calls them the way he would during a game. But there is technology, Hawkeye technology, that's running in the background that is using the strike zone width, depth, the top and the bottom of it, the way it's written in the rules. And it is tracking those pitches alongside the call that the umpire is making. Each team gets 2 challenges over the course of the game. If a batter, pitcher, or catcher does not like the call, they can tap their helmet or their ball cap to tell the umpire that they would like that call to be reviewed. And then guess what? You just like in tennis, you put it up on the big screen. The Hawkeye shows you, was it a strike, was it a ball? Did they get the call right? Did they get the call wrong? Boom, off to the races. We changed the call. They did this in the minor leagues. A challenge added 17 seconds to the game on average. So not going to change the game time. And here is what I think the coolest part is. You have 2 challenges throughout the game. You're a batter. You get strike 3 called on you, and you know it was outside. You tap your helmet. Hawkeye comes up on the big screen. It says You were correct. It was a ball. Guess what? Unlike in football, unlike in these other sports, you don't lose the challenge. You still have 2 challenges. So as long as you keep getting them right, you still have a mulligan in your back pocket. You only lose a challenge if the umpire's call is confirmed or upheld. So in spring training, teams are going to have 2 challenges apiece. Why do I bring this up? Because the Diamondbacks, of all of the teams in spring, will be playing the most games with this technology. So if you're going out to spring training games before the season and you want to catch some action, there's a decent chance that when you see the Diamondbacks play, that this system is going to be in effect. And you're going to see, so I'm trying to prime you, get you ready for when all of a sudden you start seeing people tap the top of their helmets or their hats, or the catcher taps his mask or whatever, that you understand what that is. Because, again, it on average added 17 seconds to the game. So if you're not paying attention, you might miss it. They first did this in the Independent League in 2019. They used it in AAA both in 2023 and in 2024. And instead of doing the full automated system, this challenge system has been what they have come to think works best. It continues to have the human element in the game because you still have calling the balls and the strikes, and you can't get any assistance from the dugout. You have to do it immediately. And I've had a chance to see some of this in minor league baseball, and I think it's worked perfectly. It has been awesome. So if you're out at Diamondbacks camp this year and you're seeing some games, just be aware that there's a decent chance that you are going to see the Diamondbacks be playing with this system. I believe they have a bunch of games this year. It was like 20 or so. I'm trying to pull it up here to see if I can get the actual number of games that they're going to play. But they are playing the most of all of the teams this season with this new system. They are going to play 29 spring training games with this system. That's the most in baseball. I knew it was a big number. So yesterday they said that they were going to do this, and the Diamondbacks will play 29 games with this system. I like it. I think it is the perfect way to make sure that you don't have any egregious calls, and it's all automated. Tennis has this. Nobody complains about it here. I think this is perfect. I can't wait to see it get instituted at the big league level. The idea with this is if it goes well, it's well received, it works correctly in spring. Next year, 2026, maybe 2027, is when we will see this get put to full use at the major league level. It will continue to be tested and utilized in AAA. And the idea is at some point you're going to have a whole crop of players that will have been playing under this system in the minor league level. So when it gets instituted at the big league level, they'll be ready to go. There will be some, obviously, overlap, some grandfathering that needs to be done where players have to get up to speed. But we're probably a couple years away, 4 or 5 years away, where if they institute this system, you have an entire generation of players that have been playing with this their whole life. We mentioned it in the last segment and a couple times here over the course of the show, but the Spurs shutting down Victor Wembanyama with deep vein thrombosis. Producer Dylan, I did it without even looking this time. I didn't even need to have the words in front of me. Deep vein thrombosis. A blood clot in his right shoulder that they found after he returned from the All-Star game in San Francisco, got back to San Antonio. They originally ruled him out with an illness tonight, but then today announced that they were shutting him down for the remainder of the season. Speaking of basketball, Bobby Portis banned 25 games for violating the anti-drug policy. They announced the ban today. He's going to be out for the majority of the rest of the season. He tested positive for a drug that is used to treat severe pain among adults. His agent, Mark Bartelstein, saying that it was an accident, that he took a pain medication called Tramadol, thinking he was taking a pain medication called Toradol. So they are chopping it up to just a misunderstanding, an accidental not reading the label fully. There's really a zero tolerance policy for these things in the NBA, and we've seen so many people use the accidental excuse in the past that if Bobby Portis is telling the truth, and he very well might be, nobody's going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's going to do it for us here Thursday edition of the show. When we're back tomorrow, I hope we're talking about a Suns win. They're back in action. We'll get you ready for the weekend of basketball and anything else that may happen. Jim Rome is next. Producer Dylan, thank you for all that you do. Everybody, have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya!